Once upon a time, there was a princess, the princess who saved herself. She was not the kind of girl that guys climbed towers, slayed dragons, or fought duels for. And just like the impossibility of knowing if a falling tree makes a sound unwitnessed, she was unsure if she was even beautiful, since her kind of beauty was never talked about in fairy tales. Her skin was not fair and as white as snow. Instead, she was a bronze melanin-rich velvet. Her hair was not cascading waves of blonde silk under a tiara. Her hair was her only crown, black coils stretching towards the sun. And she rarely went to the ball, and when she went to the ball, she danced by herself. Then one day, the unconventionally beautiful princess was hurt by a little prick, and she fell asleep, locked up in a mental fortress for what seemed like 100 years. Many came with intention, but what she thought was shining armour turned out to really be tinfoil and cardboard cut-out shields. Frogs came as frogs with unfulfilled promises of becoming princes. Princes came as princes but were simply frogs pretending. Frogs came as frogs and never pretended to be anything but. One complained about the amount of stairs he had to climb to find her love, said his feet hurt. One shouted up from the 5th step, "Tell me how you want to be rescued then." Another, she woke to meet halfway, and then, when she reached him, instead of being swept off her feet, he moaned until she carried him. She grew tired, and it seemed they all wanted to be saved themselves, and it seemed they all wanted to be saved more than she did. Like an ugly sister forcing corns and calluses into a glass shoe, but the pain of trying to wear a shoe that did not fit just made her ugly. And their inability to save themselves shattered her hopes of being saved, and their inability to save themselves smashed her hopes of being saved like a glass slipper dropped on the concrete steps outside an early morning rave. At night, when she changed into a pumpkin, they never saw her. It never mattered, since they came but never stayed past midnight. His slumber was her ignorance that, in all of their unbelievable deficiency, that they were all she deserved. Ignorance that in her amazing entirety, maybe she wasn't enough. Then one day, her fairy godchild came and confirmed that victim or concubine status was not necessary for salvation, that the stories she had been told had all been untrue. And as the clock struck her darkest hour, she awoke from her slumber, and she woke herself from her slumber with her own true love's kiss, and the fire-breathing dragons of her fears were vanquished only by her own sword. And she lived happily ever after.